Man, that's so strange. What is, pal? Well, the weather forecast was calling for a 100% chance of it's over, but now it's saying there's a 50% chance of we're so back. Let's go! Good. We all feel good. Stop! Never gets rusty.
What am I doing?
Into my kitchen. Producer Drew, can you fix all this? And when it comes to the Toronto Maple Leafs, you can crumple, yeet. Saw that going differently. With you wherever you are, welcome to LFR. Tavares drives past Grzelcyk. Oh, one hand, rebound, nice! I called it, and the Leafs survive. We will get a Game 6 in Toronto on Thursday. Matthew Knies, that is why you watch SDPN. Stay with me. Who's gonna call it? Who's gonna call game for the Leafs? Matthew Knies, 23. 2-1. 2-1 Leafs win. We will get a Game 6. Oh, do you feel it, Bruins fans? Do you feel it? Is it happening again? The seeds of doubt have been sown. And Matthew Knies, with a giant watering canister, is allowing them to flower. Victory, Puppy Ziggy! Here, let's go. I'm gonna drive the net, tap in. Oh, come on. It's harder than it looks, isn't it? Back to Toronto we go. Leafs win! 2-1 in overtime over the Boston Bruins. Oh, that's a shame. That's a shame, isn't it? Florida Panthers make it through to the second round. They beat the Tampa Bay Lightning in 5. And that would have been nice. Huh? Would have been nice. To do the same thing that the Florida Panthers did. Because that's who's at the end of the tunnel. That is the light at the end of the tunnel. You beat the Leafs, you get the Panthers. Who are the Florida Panthers? Well, they went to the Stanley Cup final last year. Well, that would be simplifying the story a bit, wouldn't it? How did they get there? How did they get to the Stanley Cup final? Well, in order to get there, they played the Carolina Hurricanes in the Eastern Conference final, breaking Rod Brindamore's brain in the process because, see, they swept the Carolina Hurricanes in 4 games, and he was there. Like, he was there for all the games. He was their head coach. He's actually paid quite handsomely to do it, I think. I don't know. Hurricanes don't have the best reputation for that sort of thing, but he's a very good coach. And I know for a fact that he was there. But despite the fact that the Hurricanes were swept, he said, nah, because it was close. Panthers won that series. That's how they got to the Stanley Cup final. Before that, they got to take on the Toronto Maple Leafs, a team who, let's be honest, was a little fat and happy. They finally won a playoff series for the first time since 2004. Since 2004. My goodness. That's a long time. And then they take on the Florida Panthers and they lose in 5 games. C'est dommage. Not very good, but how did the Florida Panthers even get in that position? The Panthers, it's not the Panthers of this year. No. This was a team that barely squeaked into the playoffs. In fact, they mostly did because the Penguins choked final 2 games of the season against the Chicago Blackhawks. Florida Panthers played well towards the end of the season. They got in. But they're going to die. They're going to just explode. Fiery inferno. Burned to ashes, swept in 3. And then the most amazing thing happened. Florida Panthers, they won 1 game out of the first 4, which is a lot more games than most people expected them to win in this series. See, they were taking on the Boston Bruins. The Boston Bruins, they of 65 win, record-setting President's Trophy fame. And the Bruins had a 3-1 series lead. A 3-1 series lead. Now, us Leaf fans, we know those can be a little tricky to hold on to at times. They can just be a little tricky. Game 5 in Boston. TD Garden. You know what? You know what's funny? I believe the thing was even in overtime. the Bruins had an opportunity to finish off the Panthers and advance to the second round, and they don't. And they don't. And the series goes to 6, and they don't. Florida wins, and they send it to 7. The Bruins have the lead late in 7. And again, as a Leaf fan, I know those late third period leads can be tricky to hold on to, especially in Boston. The Bruins, with Jeremy Swayman in net. So many familiar characters with Swayman in net. Blow it! Panthers tie it. Goes to overtime. Blow it! Panthers win it! And I just can't help but feel like maybe, just maybe, the Leafs aren't the only team in the series with demons. As the great Florence and the Machine once sang, 7 devils all around you. 7 devils in my house. See, I was dead when I woke up this morning, and I'll be dead before the day is done. Now, she said it a little bit prettier than I did. But I can't help but feel that that's how the Boston Bruins feel. And that's a little bit of how the Toronto Maple Leafs are looking at that. 3-1 down. You got a rookie goalie in net. Taking over from Samsonov again in the playoffs. You got a goalie at the other end of the night, at the other end of the ice. You can't score on. You can't score on the guy. And there's nothing but clips going around about how the Leafs told him they wanted him. He thought he was going to be drafted by him. The Leafs had a pick right before him. They thought they had a goalie. They were going after a goalie, and they don't pick him. He was the next pick. The Bruins got him with the next pick. And here he is getting his revenge over the Toronto Maple Leafs. And just to add a little salt to the wound, whether it's an illness, whether it's an injury, whether it's both, Austin Matthews is not well enough to play in Game 5 in Boston. He was pulled from Game 4 in the third period in a winnable game. Leafs scored to make it 3-1. If he's there, who knows? It's 3-2. You pull the goalie, empty net. Who knows? Who knows? Who knows? We'll never know. He didn't play. And here we are. Full game without him. 2 days off. Still don't have a game without him. And what's the narrative been over the last couple days? How well the Leafs are going to do? How they come back in this series? No! All we've been talking about is they're dead. It's over. It's over in this series. They're going to go home, going to get their golf clubs, go to Cancun. Maybe not do both. I don't know how the golf is in Cancun. I wouldn't know. And here they are. Despite the fact that all we've done is talk about Brendan Shanahan and how he's getting fired, they need a new president. Sheldon Keefe and how he's getting fired, they need a new head coach and maybe even a new entire staff. Mitch Marner, he's gone. Who else is gone? Look throughout the roster. There wasn't a name on that thing tonight that wasn't mentioned as potentially gone. And maybe that's what freed them. I was dead when I woke up this morning, and I'll be dead before the day is done. You could win this game, Game 5, and maybe you'll lose in 6. Maybe you'll lose in 6. But you can't focus on that right now. You can't focus on that right now. Because you're in Boston on a business trip. Here to win Game 6? No, you can't win Game 6 in Boston. There is no Game 6 in Boston. There is no Game 6 unless you win tonight. And that is how they went into this game. Max Domi, all of a sudden, a dude who's not even purely a center for this hockey team, is the #1 center for this hockey team between Bertuzzi and Marner. First period, offensive zone draw, wins the puck back, Marner scoots in, grabs the puck, sends it straight to the point to Jake McCabe. Jeremy Swayman has had the best eyes in these Stanley Cup playoffs, and with this first goal, the Leafs take them away. No chance he sees a speck of this thing, and it finds its way to the back of the net. Jake McCabe, with his first of the playoffs, puts the Leafs up 1-0. And you know what is sick? It's sick and demented, it's twisted. At one point, the shot attempts were 29-7 for the Leafs in the first period. They were running the Bruins show. The shots after one were 12-2 for the Leafs. They were running the Bruins show. And it goes into first intermission, 1-1. Here's how it happens. Simone Benoit is not first on this puck, and he ought to have been. He ought to have been by a much wider margin. Jake McCabe takes a funny path behind the net, but I think the reason that he does is Nick Robertson is in front of the net. Here he is from one clip to the other. Now, if you didn't notice that transition, it's because the guy that you're following with your eyes has not moved. Everyone else has. And Trent Frederic goes to the front of the net, and the guy who's been there the whole time isn't effective. Frederic all alone. It doesn't matter that Woll barely faced any shots. That was the shot that he faced. It's a pretty good one. And he ends the period. How's this for a confidence builder? He ends the period with as many saves as goals allowed. Oh, woe is me, right? Woe is me. The Leafs play their best period of the series, and they're still only tied 1-1. Woe is me! Am I right? Second period. The shots are 11-10 in favor of the Leafs still. But here come the Bruins, as they always do. They dig their claws into you, and they don't wait for you to be dead. They eat you alive. Slowly, bitterly. Can this just end? No, it's from the legs up, because they're a friggin' bear! There's some smiles throughout. Sure, there's some smiles. There's Matthew Knies having good old fun with David Pastrnak. Heck, the ref even told Charlie McAvoy and the Bruins to F off. That was hilarious. There were laughs to be had, but the Bruins still crawling their way back into this. And the shots are 8-12 for the Bruins in the third period. Gosh darn it. They're getting better. They're getting better as this thing goes. First 90 seconds of overtime, Joseph Woll is the only thing between the Leafs and golf. That is the only thing. He is the only person preventing this season from being over and done with. And we wait for the inevitable. We wait for what everyone in the hockey world has expected, because the Leafs were dead when they woke up this morning, and they'll be dead before the day is done. And as Leafs fans, gosh, you know, maybe people are right. Maybe people are right about us. We do get too caught up in, you know, ourselves, our own nonsense, being the quote-unquote center of the hockey world. We always think about our own nonsense. The Leafs, they're so done. Shanahan's gone. Keefe is gone. Blow up the core. What's going on in the Bruins' minds? Because the game is going on and on and on. And Woll is making save after save after save. And sure, Jeremy Swayman is sticking with them. He's making saves too, but he's supposed to. You expect him to make the saves. It's not surprising that Jeremy Swayman's making saves, but I want to know who this Joseph Woll kid is. You know, I remember this movie when last year we were playing a team who we were supposed to beat, and we were kicking them. We were kicking them up and down the ice. Through 4 games we were doing it. And then they switched goalies on us. And Game 5 arrived. We didn't win Game 5. What if we don't win Game 5? Great question. Glad you asked. Because the man who laughed in David Pasternak's face, you would think might be a face that you would want to remember. I called it. I called it at intermission on our watch-along stream on SDPN. Matthew Knies is calling game. I said, Callie, and then I cut myself off. Knies! As you might remember last year against the Tampa Bay Lightning, who was on the ice for Morgan Riley's OT winner? Knies! You might remember who was on the ice for Alexander Kerfoot's OT winner? Knies! And you might remember Johnny T's solo effort to defeat the Tampa Bay Lightning in Game 6 and win the series. But it wasn't so much of a solo effort, was it? Go back and watch it. Go watch Kniesy digging behind the net and digging in the corners. This is not the first time that John Tavares and Matthew Knies have connected on an OT winner. Tavares looks at Matt Grzelcyk and decides, fine, I'll do it myself. And he takes his first step, and you want to see Matt Grzelcyk, who was there last year, by the way. Look at his stride. Look at his stride right here, and tell me this isn't a person thinking, uh-oh, I may have found myself in a spot of bother. Tavares drives forward, cuts to the net, one hand on the puck, stopped by Swayman, and how dare you give Matthew Knies this time and space? That's a tap-in for the kid. That is an overtime winner from the kid. That is Game 5, 1 for Toronto. That is a lifeline to Game 6, and that, Boston, is a game you should have won. Just like Game 5 last year, and Game 6 last year, and Game 7 last year. No Chara anymore. No Bergeron. Bit of a new look team. Is this what Boston does now? You might laugh at this after Game 6. I don't know. You might laugh at this after Game 7. You also might not. And over the next 48 hours, you go ahead and ask yourself those questions. I'm going to answer these ones. But first, before I answer these questions, and you're not going to want to miss them, a final Marley minute of the season. You see, the Toronto Marlies were eliminated because that's what happens when you don't win your elimination games. Toronto Marlies were eliminated. So here's Nick Barden with the final Marley minute of the season to give you a little season wrap and say goodbye.
The Marlies season ended on Sunday in an unfortunate 4-3 loss to the Belleville Senators in overtime, but it wasn't a season entirely lost for a team that had a lot of players developing within it. The team held their end of season media availability on Tuesday afternoon, and I got the chance to speak with Marlies captain Logan Shaw, who talked a little bit about the team and the fact that throughout the entire season, they were a group that never folded the tent. There were a lot of good stories throughout the season, whether it be Nick Abruzzesi's production and him growing as a player, Marshall Rafai stepping in to an NHL role at some point for the Maple Leafs this season, as well Roni Hirvonen, who suffered an almost career-threatening eye injury, and him coming back and him playing games at the professional level again. This team had a lot of good, and although they fell short in the first round against what was their arch rival and then Belleville Senators, there was a lot of growth, not just from a team perspective, because there are a few guys that are likely leaving and there was a lot of turnover throughout an AHL team during the summer, but there's a lot of individual success too, and I think that when you look at them with the Maple Leafs will matter most this season. That is, though, the final Marley minute of the season. I want to thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you gained a lot from watching these Marley minutes every week in Steve's LFRs, and a big shout out to Steve as well for allowing me to put these videos in his LFRs throughout the year. Marlies are a team that goes unnoticed at some points, so I'm really, really happy that there was somewhere for this news to go on a weekly basis.
Thank you, Nick. Nick is a hardworking young man he's doing his best in this rotten industry. Rotten. But he's doing his best and he's doing good things, and a lot of people could learn from his work ethic. It was great to have him on board this season. Questions. What's your upcoming book about, and how can we pre-order? Oh, I'm glad you asked. Drew, can you put it next to me? I've been hinting at this for months on the podcast, but I finally got the green light to tell you this morning. Hockey Rants and Raves by Steve Dangle Glynn. That's me. I wrote another book because I'm so dumb. I'm so dumb. If you've ever thought about writing a book, oh my God, it's so hard. It's so hard. I wrote one, and I was like, that was really hard. And then they're like, do you want to write another one? And I go, no. And they go, well, what about this? And I go, yeah. Oh, I should have stuck to my first answer because writing a book is so hard. But then I wrote it, and then I read it, and I was like, oh, that's a really good book. So here it is, Hockey Rants and Raves. That's what I do. It's with HarperCollins, and you can pre-order it now. It does not come out until October, but if you pre-order it, first of all, you get first dibs, and you get it the day it comes out. And second of all, they know how many to print. So where do you pre-order it? If you go to the link that I'm putting here in the description below this video, it'll give you the option to pre-order off Amazon, if that's what you want to do. It'll give you the option to pre-order off Indigo, if that's what you want to do. I think it's Chapters Indigo, if that's what you want to do. And there's an option for local. Now, local, I don't know if your local bookstore has made a pre-order for a book that's not coming out until October, but that's what I have right now at this very early stage in the process. Hockey Rants and Raves. There it is. Who else loves this roller coaster? Oh, boo, you stink. That's incredible. I'm not going to make that the LFR title for this one, but I'm maybe for game 6. We'll see how it goes. Not a question, just thinking a longitudinal. All right, you don't have to impress us with. Big study on your stress levels would have been hella interesting. Could have been published in Nature. Thank you. Thank you. My grandparents lived to very old. What are you implying? And this is a really good question. How far do the Leafs have to go before all the faults that were focused upon heading into Game 5 can be ignored? Is it worth a series win, potentially keeping the core intact, keep around, etc., if they fall to Florida again? Whoa, now, you settle down. You calm down. Listen, Leafs won a series last year. They did. They won a series. And they went to the second round. And they lost in 5. They fired their GM. We all know what's on the line. Like, to me, I'm thinking at least conference final. At least conference final. And even then, if you only make it to the conference final and you lose, it depends a little bit on how you lose, honestly. I mean, still think about it. With the players that the Leafs have, you're Brendan Shanahan, you're Sheldon Keefe. Like, Sheldon Keefe, only one conference final appearance since 2019. Or Brendan Shanahan, only one conference final appearance since 2013. Might not be enough. And I hope that's the way they look at it. I hope the way they look at it is, we're dead. This is over. It's over. It's over. We have nothing left to lose. We always talk about the pressure on this team. Everything is so high stakes. Guys, it's done. It's done. What is coming is coming. What will be, will be. You had Game 5 in front of you tonight. You won. You had Game 6 ahead of you on Thursday. What are you going to do with it? You already know the stakes if you lose. What if you win? What if you win? What if you win? And for Boston, what if you lose? We may never know. Or we find out how much you like reruns. That is it for this one. Thank you very much for watching. Click like if you like this video. Click subscribe if you really liked it. Tell all my friends. I got a book coming out. And we'll see how this chapter of the Toronto Maple Leafs continues. But maybe, just maybe, the Leafs aren't the only team in the series haunted by ghosts.